they are using the identical propaganda. Like, it is copy fucking paste, dude. Look at this. Look. Official Israeli claimed that nearly every building in southern Lebanon conceals several missiles. Pre-excuses massive destruction of civilian infrastructure, attempts to sow division between Hezbollah and popular base. Israel is now deploying the same war propaganda campaign it did in Gaza to justify their crimes. Starting with Lebanon doesn't exist, every Lebanese is Hezbollah, to schools and hospitals portrayed as military bases. Yeah. So yeah, they are doing domain expansion and forbidden jutsu. Okay, when they pull that together, it's a very deadly combination. Obviously, they've been doing this forbidden technique called genocide on Gaza, but now they've expanded it into Lebanon, and it's so crazy because like the technique is always the same. It's always the same. They literally just are like, we have no other option. We just have to kill every single fucking person. We have to kill as many people as possible. Sorry, we have to destroy, we have to reduce entire city blocks to rubble. What can you do? And it's crazy because like American media does go along with it. Israel also has plans for northern Gaza. One of the plans that Israel has had for northern Gaza, also called ethnic displacement, which for those of you who are uninitiated, maybe you don't know this, is another term for genocide, okay? Mass displacement of an entire population from their ancestral homelands is genocide. That's what it's called, okay? It's ethnic displacement, mass ethnic displacement. And yet when Israel does it, the Associated Press is like, Israel wants to mobilize the Gazan population away from Gaza City with no return date. And it's like, yeah, dude, you used a lot of fucking words to say genocide, okay? You used so many words to just say exactly what we know, which is genocide. It is mass displacement of people. That's what you're doing, okay? Israel Minister of Diaspora also doing the Lebanon is not even a real country, actually, arguments. Like, this is identical. I feel like we're back in like October 10. Okay? We're doing October 10 shit. We're doing October 10 shit again, but this time for Lebanon, which is a whole ass separate sovereign nation. It's not even a fucking nation that Israel currently is a belligerent occupier of. They also have obviously called this famously escalation through de-escalation, which is like literally fucking George Orwell shit. Okay? I know all these dummies love 1984 or claim that they've read 1984. Okay? But this is straight up like peace through strength, de-escalation by doing escalation. All of this stuff is, yeah, war is peace. It's just double speak. It's completely ridiculous. It's like comical the way that they are pulling this shit off, but it doesn't even matter. Okay? Oh shit. It does not even fucking matter. So yeah. It is obviously, if you are watching, if you have been a watcher, if you have been a follower, if you have seen what Israel has done since October 7 in Gaza and in the West Bank, you know that they are a one-trick pony. They are doing the exact same fucking shit. Okay? And they're greatly escalating in Gaza as well. And they're also obviously greatly escalating into Lebanon, which broadens the conflict. And yet, for some weird reason, our politicians are asleep at the wheel. And they're not necessarily asleep at the wheel. They just are, they're not oblivious. They know what the fuck Israel's doing. And they're basically giving Israel assurances by, allowing them to continue doing this without like offering them, without taking away any of their weapons contracts, basically. That's literally what's going on. America is totally complicit in this. And I think the media also plays a role in the whitewashing of Israel's genocide here. Jeremy Scale says, media should stop saying Israel is telling people in southern Lebanon to evacuate. Israel is engaged in psychological warfare against civilians as a part of his broader military attacks. There is an expulsion order under threat. It is the same tactic used in Gaza. So, wonderful stuff. More active, even they are sending more U.S. troops there. Yeah, the U.S. is sending an unspecified number of more soldiers on top of the 40,000 already in the region. Great stuff overall. It's not even complicity. They are allies. They are partners in this. Our government is literally allowing Israel to do this and giving Israel all the support it needs to do this, and also saying, we will defend you if there are any foreseeable consequences off of this. And there will be consequences for this. Obviously, you cannot just keep blowing people up and expect them not to retaliate. And it's if you were ever wondering, like, in an alternative universe, what would happen if, like, America didn't fight the Nazis, but instead, like, joined the side of the Nazis? Well, now you know. Okay. And it's additionally crazy because, like, now we can see it happening in real time. Back in the day, the Red Cross also very famously went into the camps and did propaganda for the Nazi government, right? To make it seem as though these were not death camps. There's a very famous instance of this. People that were sent to these death camps did not know that they were being sent to death camps. They thought that these were concentration camps. But because there wasn't real-time evidence as to what was actually going on, with the exception of, like, the people that were living in the villages, and even then that is disputed, but people fucking knew what was going on, obviously, right? But, like, with the exception of people that were, like, directly there in the surrounding areas, like, information could be kept quiet. You can't really do that in the modern day and age. And yet people know, and people now can also basically operate like they are a German villager, a German townsfolk that is living right next to a fucking concentration camp. They can see it, and they have full knowledge over what's going on, and they can still turn a blind eye to it. Okay? This is why Zone of Interest was fantastic in basically showcasing not just, like, the banality of evil or whatever, but, like, how people can act out their daily lives when unimaginable atrocities are occurring. So, you know, wonderful stuff happening. The pure depravity, the inhumanity in full display. And yeah, if you ever wondered, like, how this could happen, if you ever wondered how people could be complicit in the face of such glaringly obvious displays of inhumanity, okay, in the most obvious case of an ethnic cleansing campaign being conducted in front of your eyes, if you were ever wondering, like, how the fucking random German baker or the random German accountant was you know, smelling the fucking ashes and having the ashes fall on them next to a goddamn concentration camp and still maintain their daily activities and still live their fucking lives as though, you know, nothing is different. And in certain instances, maybe even taking joy out of it, like these tours that were offered in Israel, boat tours in Israel off the coast of Gaza to watch it get bombed and see the place they plan to build new settlements, ? Says Suppressed News. I'm not entirely certain on the accuracy of the Twitter account, but this is TRT World, the Turkish national broadcaster. Here it is.
Gaza is relentlessly being erased. They took a boat with the first families, ready to occupy the land of those who are being killed and starved to death.
Most empathetic Israelis, dog, I need you to understand something here, okay? This already happened in previous incursions. These special operations called mowing the lawn by the Israeli government, okay? Death camp tourism is an actual thing that happens in Israel. I've talked about the depravity of certain far-right elements, ultra-nationalist elements within Israeli society when I talked about Siderot cinema, okay? On the hilltops of Siderot, people would put couches up and watch Gaza explode in flame, okay? This is not a new thing that is happening. Yes, it is called Siderot cinema. These were people in Israeli society that took great pleasure in watching Gaza burn, okay? So it is not shocking to me. It is not shocking to me that they have upgraded their tourism in this to this degree. Here's the context on this. This isn't actually tourism, but it's still really bad. Oh, it's this fucking psycho. It's this rabid freak, dude. She's everywhere. God damn it. I feel like people misunderstand this as being a tourist attraction instead of a single sale of political activists calling the colonized Gaza that happened 9 months ago. Yeah, I mean, good luck explaining this. I know that these are the furthest right-wing elements, okay? I know. These are the hyper right-wing psychopaths that Israeli government has never really turned a blind eye to and has either secretly propped up and given a shit ton of funding to or support and military help to, who they have now actively brought into their governing coalition. Okay? People do not understand, like, you want to make this because every single time we have this conversation, like, anti-Semitism is a subject matter here, is like sometimes cynical, oftentimes in a cynical mechanism to deflect away from like the true issue at the heart of Israeli society. And what I try to, I guess, explain to you, if you are living in the Western world, right, is we are experiencing a similar thing in the United States of America. We are experiencing a similar thing with the AfD in Germany, a similar thing with Le Pen's rise to power in France, a similar thing with the Reform Party and Nigel Farage in the UK. Okay? More ultra-nationalist, fascist right-wing elements become a part of the governing coalition actively. Okay? The more they do this, the more they're normalized, the more the rest of society basically follows along. And Maloney in Italy as well. So that is precisely what is happening here, and that is precisely what has happened in Israeli society over the course of the past 30 years. Okay? And there is a air of complacency in terms of like the rest of the Israeli society when they see this stuff, and they hate them, right? They hate them for sometimes aesthetic reasons. They sometimes hate them because it makes the rest of Israeli society look bad. But ultimately, if you don't stop this dead in its fucking tracks, you ultimately become either completely complicit or a defender of this kind of action. Okay? That's it.
להתקרב ככל האפשר לעזה, לראות את עזה כולה ולהבין שמעתה והלאה עזה תהיה כולה יהודית.
You said the U.S. media stopped showing war carnage on TV because it made it too real for Americans, which I get, but Israelis seem to get even more bloodthirsty at the sight of incinerated Gaza babies. No, what are you talking about? The military censor literally stops any kind of like showcasing of like what the Israeli occupying force has done in Gaza. No, they don't. They show, in a weird way, U.S. media shows more of the death and devastation in Gaza than the Israeli media does, but the Israeli media actually actively covers the wrongdoings of like the Israeli military because their obvious purpose is to still inform their own public, and they don't need to do propaganda for an uninitiated audience like all of the major Western outlets have to do. They don't actually show the actual death. Israeli chatters will confirm this. It's actually one of the things that they routinely talk about in this chat is the fact that outside of Al Jazeera, there are never any fucking Israeli outlets that like actually show the devastation. There's obviously 972 and Local Call, but like they're more focused on, all of the investigative reporting that they do. And those are like edge cases, right? Those are like the tippy top of like the anti-Zionist journalism that's happening in Israel. And those guys are like, they're nothing in comparison to like the circulation that you have for every other Israeli newspaper. And that is the unfortunate reality. Israeli Twitter account is tweeting in English, telling people to evacuate. Yeah. Great stuff. Please get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes. Great stuff, man. Thank you for saying this in English, by the way. I wonder why they're saying this in English. The anti-Semitic blowback from this is going to be catastrophic and absolutely earned from the Zionist Jewish chatter, just so everyone knows. Yeah, I mean, it's already happening, and it's gonna greatly escalate as well. It's gonna get significantly worse. But yeah, there aren't a lot of Israeli outlets that show the devastation and the death in Gaza, and that is by design, for the record, just so you understand. Because that is the one aspect that they don't want to show, because one thing you have to understand, and Israel is very similar to Turkey in this regard, both ultra-nationalist countries in different ways. I'm not comparing what like Turkey has done. I mean, Turkey, obviously the Ottoman Empire did the Armenian genocide, but like beyond that, in terms of like contemporary Turkish society, we still have a lot of pride in our military. Like we have a lot of reverence for it. It's like you can't disrespect the flag. You can't do any of that because it's a common trait in ultra-nationalist countries. And Israel, no matter what your attitude is inside of Israel, no matter what your attitude is, this is something that Americans will not understand, okay? Because like we can say whatever the fuck we want about the military. We can do whatever the fuck we want to our flag here in the United States of America. But in Israel, there is like no matter what kind of activist you are, there is a tremendous amount of reverence and respect for the Israeli military. The Israeli military, just like the Turkish military, is supposed to be a secular institution that is a protectorate of the democracy. And I say democracy in air quotes, okay? A democracy for those who are deserving of democracy, the superior group in Israeli society. So for that reason, it's like when you show the negative consequences of the Israeli military behaving in exactly what a fucking military would do, in the normal ways in which the military destroys civilian infrastructure, they don't show that stuff in order to maintain this presence and in order to maintain this like idea that the IDF is usually trying desperately to do the right thing. Okay? So internally in Israeli society, you rarely ever see the death and destruction inside of Gaza. That kind of stuff is kept to like the edge groups, the Telegram channels where like people fucking jerk off to the dead children, where they go crazy over it. But that's not the broader Israeli society's outlook in general. It's important to understand this, because I do think that if they were to regularly showcase the death and destruction to like normal Israeli people, there probably would be a lot more people who are fucking anti-war in terms of like what people are doing there. They'd be like, this is horrifying. That's why they are hermetically sealed from Palestinian communities. Yes. One of the greatest threats. There's two really big threats to the future of Israel, okay? There's two phenomenal threats to the future of Israel being like a Jewish ethno-state, okay? One is Israeli Jews recognizing that Israel maybe isn't the safest place for Jews in general, or for anybody for that matter, and fucking leaving Israel and going back to Europe or going back to the United States of America, okay? That is a massive threat for the ethno-state project, right? You all of a sudden ruin everything. If people voluntarily fucking leave, and it's happening already, then that's a major problem. That is a major problem, right? So that's number one. And number two is obviously like Israeli people, like the Jewish demographic of the Israeli population, recognizing the humanity of Palestinians would be devastating to the apartheid project, like absolutely devastating. And in every circumstance, they have to keep like normal Israeli people that would be a part of like standing together or whatever, away from like coming to a recognition that Palestinians are fucking human beings. And Israel's enemies are actually like real human beings with like real motivations for emancipation and not just like bloodthirsty anti-Semites. Okay? And the apartheid only ends when it gets too expensive, right? Yes, if you incur social and political penalties for maintaining an apartheid and you become a social pariah on the global stage, which Israel is bouldering towards and has become, especially in the Western world, in Western Europe especially, then that becomes a massive problem. It becomes too consequential. You live in Tata land, Hasan? You mean La La land? Hundaman, oh, the poor things. They just engage in death and carnage because they're brainwashed to be a colonial, genocidal cunts. Wait, what? What are you saying, brother? I'm talking about like how normal human beings are. What do you think? Like there's a genetic predisposition for people born in Israel to fucking hate Palestinians? No, it's all social conditioning. These are devastating factors that churn out genocide support, which is completely unacceptable. But when I'm actually describing the way in which this cycle of misinformation and dehumanization is fostered and grows in Israeli society, you arrive at I'm trying to help people understand, like, you know, these people that we're watching, okay, these fucking rabid freaks are now becoming more prominent in Israeli society. They are over the course of like especially the past 30 years, as Israel has escalated its settlements, as Israel has escalated its violence and its stranglehold over the Palestinian population, these kinds of attitudes become more commonplace. And it's actually reflected in the youth as well. That's the most dangerous aspect of this, because the Haredi population is very young. They are the ones who are actually fucking and having a lot of children. And lo and behold, like Israeli society is going to become less and less educated as a direct consequence of this, and more rabid in terms of their ultra-nationalist sentiment. Like the Israeli future is a nuclear state comprised of the most inbred, the most uneducated, the most religious zealots that you have ever fucking seen. Okay? That is precisely what they are headed towards, and that's already happening. And the fact that like no one is looking at this and going, well, you have to fucking put an end to this. You have to stop this. It's more than not showing the death. They show the opposite. This happens in Gaza too, but I shit you not a day or two after the pager sabotage, one or more of our media channels uploaded a mini doc with the title like "The Lebanese Who Are in Support of Israel's Operation in Lebanon." Yeah. Darzex is a Israeli chatter as well. So this is something that you see. They are manufacturing consent in an entirely different way. What about the various resistance groups in terms of the Israeli apartheid state lasting? Don't those also play a role? Of course they play a role. It is all about making apartheid unsustainable, okay? And that is the role that the resistance groups play.